developing the mindset to embrace change rather than resist it was a good lesson early in my career. I think when you're adaptable, you're less rigid and you develop the resilience to really regroup more quickly, especially when there's setbacks and obstacles. And there always will be those, no shortage of those. So I think you can not only navigate change better, but more readily also see opportunities and to kind of make lemonade out of lemons, so to speak.
Welcome to Behind the Screens, conversations with background screening pros. I'm Les Rosen, your host, and I'm excited to have you here. On this podcast, we chat with the people who know the background screening world inside and out. Executives, industry experts, legal pros, and more. We dive into their personal stories and insights to give you a real look at what's happening behind the scenes. Whether you work in the screening industry or are just curious, Behind the Screens bring you the real, unfiltered conversations from the people who make it all happen. Stick around for stories you won't hear anywhere else. And welcome to another episode of Behind the Screens, a podcast that features some really remarkable people in the screening industry. And today we have one of the most remarkable people that I've had the pleasure of working with her, not only in PBS, now PBSA, and also at a screening firm, but I have seen her up close and in person. And this is a person that can do anything and do it all. She can do sales, she can do marketing, she can be in charge of partnerships, lead generation. She knows all about onboarding. She can be in charge of client services. She can be in charge of client retention. She can be in charge of quality control, training. She can be in charge of products. She knows everything from criminal records to social media, inside out and backwards. She knows international. She can be in charge of that. She knows all about drugs and OC health, user interface design, contract negotiations and compliance, and the list goes on. And beyond all that, a just genuinely nice person and a former chair of PBSA and one of the longest serving board members. And if you don't know by now, I can only be talking about the one and only Dawn Standerwick. Dawn, welcome to the program.
Wow, Les, thank you so much. That is the most amazing and humbling intro I know I've ever received. So thank you. And it's great to be here with you today.
Well, you're welcome. And it's all heartfelt. And I say that because I have personally seen you excel in all those areas. And I know you can be in charge of all those areas, which is just truly amazing. So it's just a real pleasure to have you. So let's start. Tell us about your current role. Tell us what you're currently doing and what you like about it, what you find most interesting about it.
Well, I currently work for HireRight. It's a little global screening firm you may have heard of. Actually, not so little. But I am a senior member of the enterprise sales team. And, after spending most of my career in executive leadership roles, I was looking to work with a company that has a strong identity and is on a clear upward trajectory, and HireRight really fit that perfectly. So it's actually been really good to refocus and get closer again to the things that make this work meaningful to me, and that's working with employers.
Oh, that's great. So tell us about your career path. What was your journey like? Where did you begin in the background screening world to get to where you are now?
Well, I stumbled into this industry, 34 years ago now. So I always beg people to please don't do the math on that. But I actually applied for my first job in a newspaper, which I fully recognize only further dates me. But I really did grow up in this industry. I spent 17 years as an operations leader with a firm that had both wholesale and retail segments here in Colorado. I exited that organization as their VP of operations and then made the jump into an executive leader role as VP of sales and marketing for another CRA, which eventually took our family to Florida and then back to Colorado again, where I worked with you and the team at ESR, which was certainly a highlight of my career. And at ESR, I I did sit, I did wear a few hats, but mostly was responsible for new revenue. So sales, marketing, and partnerships. And of course, ESR was then acquired, and I've continued to work in a sales leader role until joining HireRight.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, you've certainly seen every aspect of the industry, and the length and breadth of your knowledge and abilities is just really amazing. So, with all that in mind, what was an early lesson that you learned in your career that has stuck with you that enabled that growth and your ability to grow in the industry and also to grow in the industry association?
Well, there have been oh so many lessons along the way, but I would say that being open to change is a lesson that really keeps on giving. The landscape in most businesses isn't static, and change is certainly a constant in the screening industry. So it's been very much par for our course. So I think that developing the mindset to embrace change rather than resist it was a good lesson early in my career. I think when you're adaptable, you're less rigid and you develop the resilience to really regroup more quickly, especially when there's setbacks and obstacles. And there always will be those, no shortage of those. So I think you can not only navigate change better, but more readily also see opportunities and to kind of make lemonade out of lemons, so to speak.
So it's kind of go with the flow and see where the opportunities are as you maneuver through the constant barrage of changes that you see in the industry, in your career and in the industry in general. That's great. Well, you started in the industry and you stayed and grew and did different things. What do you enjoy most about working in the background screening industry? What gets you excited about it? And what kept you in that industry as opposed to going off into other areas or ventures, which I'm sure you could have?
Well, I think, just talking through kind of what the journey has been in this industry is one thing, and that's very much the surface. For me, an important part of this has been the people along the way. So the leaders and the mentors that I've been incredibly fortunate to have, people who invested in and believed in me. You're certainly one of those special people, along with like Brad Landon and Bodin Ziak, Mark Milligan. So I think I strive to pay that forward every day. But I think in terms of, what do I enjoy most? I like being part of an industry that's centered around people. And that may seem counterintuitive. We all know that there's groups that view us as a barrier to employment, but really the work we do helps employers to hire the right people and to honor their own culture and commitment to their work communities and as well as to the public. So I think that there continues to be, a number of misconceptions about what we do. And I love helping companies to navigate that, to be informed about the choices that they make around this important and sometimes complex part of their hiring process. It's not lost on any of us that the work we do impacts people. And I think it's a job that we all take pretty seriously. And
Well, that's a great point. Yeah, because with the people that I made this point before, employers might pay us, but we actually work for applicants. And applicants, have all sorts of histories and skills and experiences and abilities. So I assume one of the things you might be talking about is the fact, for example, this, dealing with the second fair hiring and second chance and clean slate and those sorts of things, right?
yes, absolutely. And have also contributed some time and efforts to, second chance initiatives and some of the groups that exist that are engaged and care a lot about making sure that, there's a job for every person, which I believe that there is. And I think that we as collectively as the screening industry believe that as well.
Yeah. No, that's something I don't know if I coined it, but I've been saying it for years. There's a job for everyone, but not everyone is qualified for every job. And so we help employers match properly and get the right person for the right job. So there's a lot to that. So in the sense of, working with people and the career that you've had, you obviously have a great perspective as to what has been the changes in the screening industry. And we're really not here to get into a lot of substantive issues, but just off the top of your head, what strikes you immediately when you say, when I say industry changes, what occurs to you?
There's been so much change in our industry. I mean, that's part of, why it was so important to be able to
Mhm.
adapt to change, because it's changing all the time. So I think that, obviously there's been significant growth. At the same time, there's been consolidation. We all know that the legislative and regulatory landscape has been there and always will continue to change. I think the influx of private equity has certainly been a change worthy of mentioning. It's provided financial resources, and I think those have certainly accelerated transformation and also some of that consolidation, but it's also brought its own set of trials. I think the biggest change continues to be technology. We came all from a time when many of us remember when everything was very manual and our orders were spitting out of fax machines, and there were physical, tangible things that you had to pick up and touch and review. And then along came the APIs and integrations, which I think really presented an opportunity to deliver more faster, and turnaround times were shrinking. Expectations from employers was increasing. But I think technology enabled us to deliver greater consistency, and also I think gave an opportunity for various companies to differentiate ourselves as companies. And now we have AI coming in hot. But despite all of the changes, the core of the industry for me just really continues to be about people and trust and integrity. And those things matter a lot, and why the work that we do continues to be meaningful in a place I want to be.
No, that's great. And as you look forward to the future of the industry, what do you see as there's lots of challenges. We talk about this all the time, but what's the first thing that pops in your mind? Kind of a Rorschach test. Biggest challenge facing the industry?
I think it continues to just be the legislative and regulatory landscape. There's champions and detractors, and there's certainly detractors out there that don't necessarily understand. We have a lot of well-meaning legislators that sometimes propose things that look good on paper, but turns out that there's unintended consequences, is why that education piece is super important.
No, that's so true. And sometimes these legislators or court officials just don't get the fact that the citizens whose privacy they're protecting, they want these reports quick and fast. They want the screening industry to have this information so it can go to the employer and speed up the hiring cycle. And so there's always that disconnect to play with. That's so always true. So you've obviously have accomplished a lot in the industry, and we haven't touched yet your role in PBSA and the fact you're the past chair and one of the longest serving board members. But looking back at your career, and your career is far from over, is there an accomplishment or achievement that stands out in your mind that really kind of brings a smile to your face?
Well, I know we're going to get into talking more about PBSA, but I have to say that the cherry on the top of everything was serving as chair of PBSA. I'll never forget the meeting where Julie Hackman passed the chair baton to me before the entire industry. My family was there. You and Brad were there. Brad flew in, even though he didn't travel well, but it was important to him to be there. I mean, it was really notable. And just standing on that stage, speaking to hundreds of colleagues who I so deeply respected, many that I've admired my entire career. And, there they were in the front row, those peers smiling and nodding and encouraging me every step of the way. So amazing and surreal time.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you had a distinguished career to get to the chair of PBSA because you were on the board and then had a race through the ranks. I think it was treasurer, secretary, chair-elect, and then as a reward for spending a year as chair, you then get to be on the board one last year as past chair.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
then you're just gone. No, I'm just kidding. Not really, but it feels that way after having your hands in it so much for so long, and then it kind of stops. But after 9 years, it's probably time.
well, the 9 years, though, that reflects the fact that I think you have one of the longest tenures. I think that Dean may be a bit longer than that, but congratulations on that. You had 9 years on the board of PBSA.
Thank you. Yeah.
And in addition to working on various committees and everything else that entails. And I don't think people realize what that entails to be on the board and be the chair. You not only have your family life, which is for a full-time job, then you have your job, which is a full-time job. And then you have PBSA, which is can be more than a full-time job. All right.
Yeah, but it's all worth it. I mean, it really has given back to me more than I feel like I've given. So,
And so it's right. You followed Julie. What year was that? My
oh my gosh, I'm not
that's
even.
my one trick question.
I don't even remember. I was it 2017. I think it was 2017, 2018, maybe.
And then leading up to that, you had a number of roles when you were on the committee, right? You had a number of issues to deal with.
Yeah, so I served on the Government Relations Committee, and I kind of pulled back on that since I started at Higher Rights, given Alonzo Martinez and Chris Lemon's presence there. But I also still serve on the Finance Committee. And a very long time ago, I was responsible, or I co-chaired the grassroots subcommittee with Brad Landon. And we were responsible for all of the action alerts and kind of the communication piece at that point in time. So, yeah.
So to summarize it, what's been the impact of PBSA or the influence in your career?
It's been huge. It's influenced me in so many ways. It's really been one of the greatest honors of my career. The work really gave me a wider and deeper view of the industry and a chance to learn, to network, to take an active role in shaping our industry. And there have been numerous standouts along the way who kind of became my heroes, people like Kirsten Baggis and Judy Goodkin. And there's just so many great people in our industry. And I learned so much, and it was truly a privilege to work with them. I certainly benefited from the example that they set and their knowledge, and the investment in the work at PBSA was an awesome responsibility. I would not be where I am today without PBSA, and I dare say that none of us would be.
So in terms of advice for people that are in the industry or newcomers or people that are relatively new or even people that have been in the industry for a while, is there a good reason they should join PSA or participate in PBSA?
Absolutely. I really think that if you aren't involved in PBSA or at least a member, that you're doing a huge disadvantage to your business, and you're probably at greater risk as a result. So not only joining and being a member, getting accredited. There's a number of individual certifications out there that one can get. And so beyond that, I think just getting involved, throw your bingo arm up at every opportunity, even if you feel out of your element. I certainly felt that way when I started. But the people in this industry are incredibly supportive, and PBSA is still largely a volunteer-driven organization. So even though we have this host of incredible people and partners managing the association, there's always a need for volunteers. And the relationships you build will be invaluable, and it's a great opportunity for personal growth.
And I think I've said this before in other programs, but one thing about PBSA is really impressed with it's such a meritocracy that anyone can join just by virtue of wanting to jump in and participate. I mean, that's the only prerequisite, just your willingness to, no matter what your position is, if you're a researcher or a verifier, or no matter how long you've been in the industry or where you started, you just have to join the committee. Jump on a phone call, do something, listen, get to know people.
Yeah.
It's open to everybody.
It really is.
And as you point out, there's just all sorts of advantages in terms of learning and networking. So let's go to life beyond background screening. I heard a rumor that in the background screening world, that people involved in the background screening industry actually have lives that do not revolve entirely around background screening.
They do?
Let's talk about things you do that are outside of background screening, that your hobbies or interests, things you do outside of work, things you do for fun.
Well, I became an empty nester last June after raising two wonderful sons, who I'm crazy proud of. So things have changed a lot. And so I've had what you might call a return to my roots. So we now live on a small farm in the mountains of Colorado, and we've been steadily working towards a goal of self-sufficiency by growing and raising the majority of our own food. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's
well,
what we're doing.
Well, congratulations. I know both of your sons are fine young men, and it's a testament to you, of course, and that's fantastic that they both have achieved escape velocity and doing really, really well out there in the world. And so now you are I'm not sure what the term is, a farmer or a rancher? All right. How would you describe it?
I'm not really sure. It's kind of still evolving. We've got some Highland cows, goats, a horse, some chickens. I love taunting my city dweller friends by telling them that we're getting about 20 eggs a day. So, so if you're over the area, come by for some farm fresh eggs because they are coming out of our ears at this point. Hug a goat, take them some honey. We live in a beautiful place, and being here comes with more returns than I can count on my fingers and toes. I mean, it's been amazing.
That's fantastic. So you're able to do everything you need to do, and then before work or after or on weekends, you go out there and do what? I mean, make sure the cows come home, or what is it you do exactly? Because you can tell I'm a city boy, so. Right.
Well, get out here. We'll change that. No, just kidding. Well, so usually Trevor takes the morning and I take the evening. So once I'm done with work. So, and then of course we're working all weekend. And I think that, it is a lot of work, but there's an honest simplicity in all of this that I find to be deeply worthwhile. And, it's getting us out of the house. On the weekends, we spend more time outside than inside, and it's just been good. So
just describe something you might do on the farm/ranch, that city people wouldn't even occur to do.
Well, last weekend I mixed chicken feed.
There you go.
So we, just determined what the optimal nutrition is for these chickens, and it's not just going to the store and buying a bag of food. So we're actively buying all the pieces and parts and mixing them ourselves. I carry a lot of hay, and I might be surprised that I drive our tractor around a fair amount as well. And we have a little golf cart that we just got because it's kind of a long way between all these different buildings and places. So we zip around in a little golf cart now rather than walking everywhere. But
oh, that's great.
yeah.
So so you have a barn, you have animals, you have to care, water, and feed. You have to take care of the acreage. It's right out of a movie.
It is. It really is a dream come true. It's been amazing, and like I said, it's a lot of work, but I love being out there and doing it. It's fantastic.
And so if you're ever in Colorado and look up Dawn, if you think there's an egg shortage, there is not an egg shortage at Dawn's Ranch, right?
There is no egg shortage over here.
And those are real farm fresh eggs, not the stuff you get in the store. I mean, that's like chicken to the plate.
Oh yeah, these eggs look far different than what you get in a grocery store. These are happy chickens.
Those are happy chickens. That's great. So, in the midst of all these great things you do, tell us a fun fact. We usually play a little game here called Fun Fact, which is something about you that outside of work, that something people may not know about you, completely unrelated to background screening.
Well, like everything that's kind of in the realm right now for me, it's even though it's not background screening, it is still kind of farm related. But it's the horse. I'm an equestrian. I love to ride. Horses have always been a part of my life. My grandfather raised Appaloosas, and so I really did grow up with them. And I used to show and do cross country events.
Wow.
And our property here in Colorado backs up to 60,000 acres of state land. So I have no desire to compete anymore, but I love exploring this massive backyard that we have on horseback. And Trevor, who's my significant other, also rides. My best friend moved 2 miles up the road and she rides. So we're having fun doing that together. And, it's awesome. And while it doesn't have anything to do with background screening, all made possible by background screening.
So anytime you want, you can ride off to the sunset. Do you guys ever do overnights out in the backcountry, or do just day trips at this point?
Just day trips at this point, but someday we probably will. I've done them before, but not for a really long time. But we all like camping, and camping is more fun when you're on a horse. So, yeah.
Well, if you ever get a chuck wagon, I'll sign up and I'll sit in the chuck wagon and I'll cook. All right.
I'm going to hold you to that, Les. You're going to be coming out here and you're going to be mixing some chicken food and maybe even jumping on a horse.
All right. Well, the problem with getting on a horse is that you have to some point get off, and I'm afraid of getting off involuntarily. So, other than that,
and suddenly, which can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But then I've been on camels a number of times, so I've seen to have survived. I think you're higher up with a camel, so it does seem to work out. Well, I had forgotten about that you grew up competing with horses,
Yeah.
and what kind of competition is it? I mean, riding or dressage or what is it?
So I had a Western horse and an English horse, and I would do hunter jumping, and I did some just dressage, did Western pleasure. I was in 4-H, so went through all of that. And then I also did later on, did these cross country events that were like 25-mile cross country races, really. So with obstacles, and they were fun.
Well, let me unpack that a little bit. So you would do a 25-mile cross country race with obstacles on your horse. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you were usually in the woods, and they would tie markers onto the trees, and you would have to follow the markers and go as quick as you can and could go. And then there may be obstacles like a river or a jump, and there may be a judge in the bushes judging you. And so you might get judged on time completion, as well as how well you did with the obstacles.
So by an obstacle, it's like the horse has to jump over something and you have to stay on the horse.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I've seen that in the
Ideally.
movies, but
So
I always thought that was just done with special effects. You can actually do that.
most of the time. I won't say that I've never come off a horse, because I've come off a horse plenty of times. And
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Don, with all your time in the background screening industry, what advice would you give to a newcomer, to someone entering the industry? Or maybe someone who's been in the industry for 3 or 4 years and they're working in production or doing criminal records or verifications or whatever it is they're doing. What advice would you give a person in order to become more valuable, more knowledgeable, to get ahead, build their own brand, that sort of thing?
well, I think that involvement piece is key. And I think, obviously I've done a lot of different things within this industry, and, all of them have given me something in some way or shape or form. But I think that there are some that definitely emerged as the things that I really prefer to be doing. And as I've gotten older, those doing things that I want to do has just become more important. So I think advice is to really earnestly find what you want to do or what you like to do. And there's a tremendous number of amazing people around that will help and support you. And the collaboration and support in this industry is unlike any I've ever seen anywhere else. And the fact that your competitors are, collaborating and supporting and investing in your knowledge, and are cheering you on, is pretty cool.
And you mentioned earlier in passing that you've had, great people in the industry who have been mentors, but I've seen that you have been mentors for people as well, and that you're available if someone were to contact you or call you up or reach out or connect. You would be a person who'd be more than happy to help someone,
I
right?
would help
Yeah.
anybody. Anybody could reach out and get advice. And people have said, getting on the board seems like such a daunting thing. And I tried to help them, give them the assurance and to take that step and to do it. And I've seen a number of people join the board that were, unsure or a little petrified that it was something that they could take on, and they did fabulously. It's a very supportive environment, and yeah.
Yeah. And of course, a person, usually they start with it, working with a committee, and then maybe work on some project, and maybe work as a co-chair of some subcommittee or chair a committee, and that might be a path to the board. And I've seen that as well.
Everybody has to start somewhere, and you just have to start, and then you have to be clear about what you want, where you want to go with that. So
Well, that's fantastic. Every interview, I learn things about people, and even though I've obviously known you and worked with you a long time, I continue to be amazed by finding out more about you and things that I hadn't known before. And so every conversation is wonderful. Do you have any last words? We always end the program by giving you the last word.
I think just to keep the common theme of our talk today, it's clear that this industry has given me so much. So knowledge, friendships, challenges, growth, all of that. And it really just continues to be a privilege to serve alongside people who not just care about the work we do, but about each other. So when you find an organization that extends that, honor it and be part of it. And, to the industry peeps, PBSA members, peers, our partners, vendors, just a huge thank you. Many of the folks in our industry are not just friends, but really are family to me. And I'm incredibly grateful for this journey, and less to you, to Brad Landon. Thank you for believing in me and for the opportunity to join you today. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've had the chance to hear from Dawn Standerwick, past chair of PBSA, background screening extraordinaire, and farmer, rancher, and a horse person as well. So many hats. I can't believe it. So this has been great, Dawn. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today.
Thank you, Les.
And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Behind the Screens. What a great conversation. If you would like to hear more of these episodes or like to have more episodes done, you could really help by going to YouTube and subscribing to our YouTube channel or on LinkedIn. It helps if you repost or click like or make a comment. That helps get the word out, and we're able to continue to offer this programming. And with that, look forward to seeing you on the next edition of Behind the Screens. Today, our background screening pro was none other than Dawn Standerwick. Dawn, thank you again.
Thanks, Les.
All right, that was yet another wonderful conversation with a background screening pro. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, if you got a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. For more info or to catch up on past episodes, or to make suggestions or to suggest possible future guests, head over to our website. Once again, this is your host, Les Rosen, and it's been a pleasure to bring you another episode. See you on the next episode. Thanks.